Hey, what's up, guys? I'm here with Bryce Bennett, a fresh winner from the ATC team event. Bryce played Astro Militarium or Imperial Guard at ATC in Chattanooga with Art of War. He was on the 8-man team and he won the event with those guys. And also, he won Best in Faction Imperial Guard, putting up a 4-1 record and probably should have been 5-0. He had a couple of things go weird round 5, but had a lot of big wins. So I want to get him on and have him go through his list. And then he's also going to talk about kind of an overview on how he lists builds for team events in general. So if you don't care about guard and you care about that, just skip past this. But he's very good, very intelligent, so you'll definitely learn something. So Bryce, why don't you take us through your list and tell us anything interesting maybe on why you play certain units, etc., etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, everybody. So, I played guard with Art of War, and basically, going into the events for my list, I knew that I was going to be an early defender, which in a team event means I get a general table choice and I get to play on open maps, right? So I took the general guard archetype that I work with and I went from there. So I think personally, for guard specifically, the current best archetype you start with is 2 Rogaldorn Tank Commanders who are unbelievably powerful data sheets, followed up by 2 or 3 hulls that also output a lot of damage. Generally, Lehman Russes. In this list, I ended up having another Rogaldorn in addition, but that's the general concept. Is it's a lot of guns on an open table where I know that I'll be able to exploit sightlines and push from there. So generally, like I said, the 2 biggest parts of the list are the Rogaldor Tank Commanders. They output a ton of damage, especially in Combined Regiment, which is the indexed attachment that I am playing, where they get lethal hits when they're shooting monsters' vehicles. And that way I know basically no matter what RB I'm playing against in the meta, I'm just going to outshoot them, right? Which is a really powerful thing because that lets me tailor the rest of the list to make sure that I'm shooting those tanks 5 turns of the game and constantly activating. So the rest of my list includes a regular Rogaldorn, which has the blank, which is a very important part of the game plan. It includes 2 units of Kasrkin in Toroxes, which I will go over. They're a really important part of the list, actually. There's a Hellhound, which is an additional support beast, a Lehman Russ battle tank with plasma cannons for the sponsons, a Lehman Russ exterminator, and a Scout Sentinel. I think there's a couple other small infantry units in there, but that's the general idea. So basically, again, I know that with a guard list and a team format, if I'm pushing for big wins, right, I have to be able to score primary from very, very early on into the game in order to draw my opponent out. Because if they're allowed to just stand behind walls and do nothing, we're just going to draw, and it's not going to be a fun time for anybody, right? So you need to be able to attack primary with guard very early on to the game. Make sure you're getting 10s, maybe even 15s if the layout allows for it from the beginning of the game. My way of doing that on an open table, generally, is where the 3rd Rogaldorn, the regular Rogaldorn in this list, comes in.
What layout did you play on mostly?
I actually exclusively played on layout 2.
Okay, so you were defending 2? Were you defending
layout 2? I was first or second defending, and I always was able to pick layout 2, which is what I was shooting for coming into the event.
Gotcha.
Specifically because layout 2 was played entirely on tipping point, which I don't know if you are familiar with that layout on that tipping point. About 70% of the opponent's deployment zone is unusable if they don't want to get shot by 3 tanks on turn 1.
That's very good. For you.
Yeah, no, I would be lying if I said the game plan was complicated once you actually put it on the table. So because of that, right, I know that I basically just want to park a Dorn on my expansion as early as possible, as long as I can ensure that it's not immediately getting tagged by some silly fast units or getting shot by some firepower that can kill it without me being able to shoot back, right? That's a big part of the game plan. Is I know I'm going to get shot when I'm playing this list. Obviously, I have a bunch of big tanks that I can't hide. It's just going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I just always make sure that wherever the angles I'm getting shot from, I'm controlling so that I'm shooting 2 or 3 or sometimes 4 tanks immediately back at the thing that shot me. And if something is valuable enough to poke out and shoot a Dorn, I am very happy to shoot 3 tanks back at it because most lists don't play enough things that can shoot that in shooting. So if I can trade one of my Dorns for the one thing in their list that can do that, I'm basically just going to win the game from that point because then I could put my Dorns wherever I want, right? Like, there's only so many things people play that kill 2-up armor saves at range. And a
Yeah,
lot of
I mean,
times it's like 0.
killing Dorns from across the map is not something most of the game can do. And then I noticed you have a regular Dorn instead of triple commander. What is the reason behind that for the blank?
It is, exclusively the blank. So it basically just eliminates a couple more of the things that can do it, right? Like a repulsor executioner or an atropos, or even some of the bigger chaos knights where they have these huge shots with high AP, but a lot of times they're like 2 shots or D3 shots. And if I have the blank, it literally means that model that could kill me just can't, right? It just physically cannot. If I can blank one of the repulsor executioner shots, it will never kill me, and I am going to kill it immediately. And once that's done, again, we don't really need to play a lot of the rest of the game.
Yeah, you can even just go smoke blank damage, and you're probably not going to die cross court like 9 out of probably
TP,
very rarely.
Exclusively for smoking that Dorn, almost always, basically. Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. So the next part of it, right? So that sounds very simple, and generally it is very simple, but there are key ways that can be like interacted with, including, like I said before, things that can tie up the Dorns are very bad for me. Things that can do damage at close range and somehow like recycle themselves, like whether that's like consolidating behind a wall or whether that's being tough to kill at the same, like on the way back, and there's a lot of threats coming at me at the same time, things like that, right? And or melee units that are staged very aggressively, which on layout 2 is mostly avoidable, but there are definitely spots where that is the case. And I knew going into the event, right, I'm not always going to be guaranteed layout 2, and other maps have better access points for my stuff that I'm more worried about. And that is where the Khazrakan in the list come in, because their entire job basically is I find the staging point my opponent can use to even look at my tanks, right? And I point Khazrakan straight at it, because anything that I'm scared of going into a staging point like that and then getting to me is a unit that's fast enough to get to that staging point. And generally those things are a little bit fragile. I'm talking things like Sanguinary Guard is a really good example, or some orc units.
Like 12-inch moving advance in charge type stuff. 12-inch moving things, that can do some damage, basically, right?
Exactly, yeah. But again, most of those things, Khazrakan just annihilate, right? Because as long as I point the Khazrakan at that spot, I get to go in, get them out, grenade, melt a mine, like first ring fire, secondary fire, shoot 100 high AP like infantry killing shots with lethals at them. And maybe I don't always kill all the squad. Khazrakan aren't great at literally wiping stuff all the time. But if I kill the 3 Sanguinary Guard besides the character, I don't care anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like the unit doesn't matter at that point.
It's like Dorn Castle, but you're protecting the Dorn the whole list, right? Kind of the idea.
Yeah. So literally the only 4 models in my list that I could care less about are the 2 Dorn commanders, the battle tank, and the exterminator. Everything else in the list is in service of keeping those like shooting for 5 turns. Because if I get to activate those things 10 times or 5 times, I'm just going to win. I'm just going to, right? Like, I'm just going to kill everything. That's just how the game works, basically. As long as I'm on an open table. Again, that is very important to remember with this too.
Did you have a backup table pick? Like, if you didn't get 2, what was your next choice?
Yeah, so it was either going to be layout 6 or on Crucible, or layout 4 on Search and Destroy. And basically what would have determined it is layout 6 on Crucible is another very open map generally, with like no ruins on the sides, that type of stuff, which Guard loves because it's just more angles I can exploit. And if there's angles on the table and I outshoot you, I'm just in a winning position, right?
Yep.
The layout 4 is a little scarier because it's Search and Destroy. But that doesn't actually matter unless I'm playing like some sort of high pressure melee army, right? And if that's the case, then I just don't pick 4.
Right.
But if I'm playing another shooting army, another big storms army, then I don't care, right? Search and Destroy, like we don't start literally on top of each other, and I do have enough tools to put in the front. Like if you try to aggressively charge me on Search and Destroy, I have a stupid Hellhound. I have 10 Catachan that can scout and like stand in a wall in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ways I can keep space as long as you're not like a hyper dedicated pressure army, basically.
So you have, I'm looking here. You have looks like 3 transports, right? And then one, two, 4 units for the transports. Is that right? Did you recycling one somehow?
That was possible depending on the game plan. It never actually came up because I got to play on layout 2 the whole time. On other layouts, that is more relevant for sure. But no, I just always had the Castercan and the Toroxes, and Toroxes over Chimeras again specifically just because they cover the distance I need to get to those
Yeah, they
points I
advance and get out.
earlier.
Yeah, very good.
Because you can advance and get out. Yep. And then the Chimera would just be for Catachan because the other game. So this is another part of the gameplay that's important, where those transports come up. Right, is if my expansion's over here and I get to put my Dorns on and be really safe, the game plan still doesn't work if you just get to get tens way over here and we kind of look at each other.
Right.
So the second Castergan Torox and the Catachan, which are the Catachan are just a huge OC bomb. They don't do any damage. They don't really do anything at all. They're just a lot of OC that move fast, right? So
I know about that.
Yeah, right. It's a bit of a Gretchen truck situation.
Mm.
But yeah, all they're there for is that if the opponent does find some way to put something on the objective that can tank or has like lone op or something like that, basically that I can't just remove with the Dorns cross courting it. I just throw 40 OC or 20 OC of idiots Catachan in their way, and then
Yeah, and then they're cooked. Yeah, heck yeah.
Yeah, nothing is. Yeah, nothing can actually hold the objective through that because anything that's like high enough OC or big enough or blah 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 is something I can shoot. And as soon as it's something I can shoot, then it's not even a question anymore, really, right? Like I don't know. To be honest with you, I don't know that somebody held their own expansion against me until like round 4 of game 5.
Yeah, between the shooting and then the OC bombs, you don't need to. Yeah, it's very safe for you to interact with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's units I just don't care about, right? Like they're there to go and die and be in the other person's way. And yeah, I did give up a lot of challenger cards, to be honest with you, but that's just a thing in teams.
Yeah, that's the way you're building the list. Yeah.
You just have to blow through it. If you try to play around like challenger cards, you're immediately capping yourself at like a 14, maybe even less than that.
Yeah, like if you can score one less point to miss one, sure, but like if you can score 15 points, you just start snowballing the lead. Yeah, I noticed that as well. In some of my bigger wins, It was just like, yeah, you got a challenger guard for 3 points, cool. You're still down by 37. Like at that point, once you get the big enough lead, it doesn't matter. But or where you get trapped is if you're like having like 7-point lead for the whole game. That's when it gets a little dicey.
Yes. Yeah. Precisely. Yeah. And as far as like, I think that's really the general idea of the list. Again, it's not complicated, right? It's just put big tanks that you can't interact with outside of shooting me on my objective. And I listen, if somebody can outshoot me, then good for them. Like my last round, the game that I did end up losing was functionally 2 Gladiator Lancers almost soloed my army in the shooting phase.
Yeah, very unlucky. I heard. Wouldn't happen again, probably, right?
It's a possibility, right? That is something that I am leaning into. So I'm not going to be like it wasn't impossible. It's not like something that could never happen again. It's just I have 5 of invuln or 5 of saves in cover the whole time, and as soon as I make 2 of them throughout the course of the game, right? It's like not that much of a problem anymore because of how quickly I'll kill the Lancers back. But it didn't end up happening. The Lancers did basically solo my army in the shooting phase, and sometimes that happens. And I think I would argue that it shows the power of the list that going through that and 2 back-to-back 6-inch advances charges from jump pack units from the back edge of my opponent's deployment zone. I still pulled a 9 with the opponent having second turn with 4 challenger cards.
Yeah, that's very good.
You know what I mean? Sometimes stuff happens, and
something I think people would like to hear is just if you could give a brief synopsis of your layout 2, right? Layout 2. Mm-hmm. So your layout 2, turn 1 going first into like a mid to favorable matchup. Just like Where are you putting your
Yep.
army? Like on your turn one move, I think people would really like to have you describe that. To be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, the game plan was extremely straightforward because if I know I'm in an advanced matchup, like I built my list to do a thing, and I'm gonna basically tell the other person that they have to decide how to like deal with it because I know how strong the play is. And so the play basically involves. I don't know if you have like a picture layout too or something you put up, but
I will when we
in
talk about
the
this. Yeah.
so so on my expansion side, basically what's happening is I have a Leave Us battle tank, which I'll briefly quickly explain why that is a battle tank with plasma cannon sponsons instead of other Russes that I actually generally consider to be better, and it's just because of the range. And you'll see in the graphic that the range is really important for the exact role that it is in because it shoots 48 and the plasma cannon shoots 36. I'm not losing value, despite it not necessarily being as good as some of the other Russells, like a second exterminator. But anyway, so that battle tank starts in the bottom left of my deployment zone, and throughout the entire game, its only job is to screen, so nothing ever gets behind me because that is really bad for guard in general and especially my game plan. And it's to shoot at range down the outside lane if somebody is willing to go in there. And then it can go wholly into the piece of terrain directly in front of it and shoot into their deployment zone or onto their expansion objective. So if I'm going first, basically it just keeps standing there unless they give me something to shoot in their deployment zone because it's still screening, it's still ready to shoot everything I want it to, right? And then my play on my expansion is one of two things. If they do have something that can come out and threaten a door even a little bit, but nothing that can physically cover the space to stand on my objective, which was a really common thing because I could shoot into their deployment zone. They don't get to like have small skirmishing units that are readily available to get to my expansion, right? If that's the case, then I put the Torox with the Kazrakan on there because it does two things. One, it means that if they shoot the Torox, I can just get the Kazrakan out. And if they're exposing enough resources to shoot the Torox and that to death, I'm just going to murder them. So, like,
Yeah.
good for them. Um, and then it also positions the Torox in such a way that on the immediately afterwards, if they try to stage into the staging parts that I care about on layout 2, which is that middle ruin, and then by my expansion, the cats are getting immediately ready to just zoom over and hit them right there, right? If they don't have something that I even remotely care about, I'll just put the Dorn there, the regular Dorn. It's 5OC. It can shoot into their deployment zone from that angle. I'm just going to put the Dorn on there and tell them to deal with it right now because otherwise it's the same problem. Where if they don't do anything, it's just going to drive another 10 inches or 13 inches directly forward at them.
Yeah, get more line of sight. Yeah, and get line of sight on more valuable stuff. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So that's the game plan over there, and then you just have the super commander with the three orders just hangs behind that Dorn, so that if whatever it's the biggest shooting piece, right? So whatever interacts with the Dorn or the Torox is always getting shot back by that Dorn commander, and that Dorn commander is just going to win shootouts. It just like is almost universally. I'll always scout my Catachan, my 10 Catachan by themselves. Up into the middle ruin on layout 2 because so that they're ready for whatever secondaries I can do, blah blah blah, and because Scorched Earth is also the mission I played all 5 times because everybody picked it when they were defending, because it is a better option than the other one.
Yeah.
It gives me a unit that's ready at the drop of a hat once I'm in a good position to go out and start burning the metal.
Yeah, and that's like annoying for them too. If they have to poke out to kill a garbage unit, otherwise the middle just goes away forever. It's a very good move.
Yes, sir. And then right behind that little section is where the Hellhound is. The Hellhound is just another piece I can put in the middle if I want to. It's additional fire support with the cover. Honestly, of all the things in the list that I don't really care about, and I might change going back. The Hellhound was it's fine. It was there.
Yeah. I mean, it can't really become much else,
behind
right?
it. No, it's 125 points, dude. I could, and I'm 20 points down on the list anyway. That could be like another Russ hole, actually, almost. It could be a few things, to be honest with you. But it's still good, by the way.
Yeah,
it just isn't.
Don't have it blow up around your army. That's very bad.
In my night matchup, my 18-2, that probably would have been a 20, except for the Hellhound exploded and killed my entire armor or my entire Scout Sentinel. 5 of the Catachan that were burning. whatever. Yeah, let me not get dragged into that. But
Oops.
right behind that, I have the Exterminator ready to go spread its +1 AP buff, which is really important for the list to guarantee that I'm killing things whenever they're exposed. And then on the right side, all I'm doing is basically scouting the Chimera, the Taurox, and the Armored or the Scout Sentinel as aggressively as possible into that ruin behind there, so that as soon as the opponent, if they ever try to put anything on there, I'm just going to take their expansion, no questions asked, immediately. And what's funny enough is if they play scared enough, the Catachan, because it's such high OC, can go up and burn their objective like on turn 2 if they play.
Yeah, I did that. I did that once with my Ludas. It's the biggest dunked on move in the game. Yeah. Shout out to Jack Harpster for introducing that strategy to Central Florida.
I tried 5 turns. I've tried five games and I never got one on.
I hit it. I got it once. I got it
3 times on turn 3, but I never did on turn 3. Yeah, and then the other Dorn Commander is on that side, following those things, just to be another, base of fire support, depending on what angle the opponent tries to interact with me. And yeah, that's really the play. I basically did that 5 out of 5 games, to be honest with you, because I don't know if it comes across when I'm describing it, but what I'm doing on that map is borderline impossible to interact with unless you have a very specific list, or if you just have all your things go right? Like if you get the 6-inch die on the dice to the advanced charge and you get the Lancers killing me, then you can interact with it. But as soon as any of those things don't happen, you're dead. You're just dead. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, heck yeah, you definitely cooked up something very good. If you guys didn't hear at the beginning, Bryce did win Best of Faction with Guard. Realistically, probably should have went 5-0, and even his loss there was a 9 in teams. That's like still it's like a good contribution. Bryce is going to stick around and walk us through sort of his thought process on how he builds a list for teams and how he fills certain roles. So I want to cut real quick, and then we will go right into that. So thank you, Bryce, for sharing your very fun Guard list. If anyone wants to try it, feel free to message me or put a comment. We would be happy to show you more in-depth stuff on TTS. So be right back.
Yes, sir.
I am back with Mr. Bryce Bennett once again. We are going to be discussing his mentality and how he looks at building lists for team events. Primarily, we're going to be focused on 8-mans because that has a little more strategy into it. So whenever you're hearing this stuff, just think of an 8-man event. 5-mans are a little bit different in how you want to build your armies and factions and stuff. So 8-man, how do we build lists to go get 20s, and how do we build lists to go get 10s? Is essentially like the two different varieties that we're looking for here. So Bryce, you're going to run the show here. I'll ask some questions. So get us started on when you're building a list for the team, or someone on your team is like, hey, Bryce, what do you think about this list versus this list? What are some things you're looking for, and how do you decide on what role you want that person to sort of like look for with their list?
Yeah. So for me, when I'm approaching a team event, right, because I've played a number of different roles on team events, whether it is hunting for 20s, whether it's just blunting stuff, whether it's being flexible in the pairings process. I've done all that stuff, and
Bryce always picks his army last. By the way, everybody, all seven of us not lock in our army, and then we look at Bryce. Bryce, you can play this. What do you want to play? We need this to get filled, and then I don't think Bryce has played the same faction at a team event yet. I don't think you played Orcs twice.
I've played Guard twice, and I've played Orcs twice. Although both of them were like very
years apart. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bryce is very, very flexible, bouncing around. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite parts of 40K actually is figuring this stuff out. So for me, when I'm approaching a team, which like Garrett said, normally I am the last one to pick my team after we've all figured out what we're doing, or pick my faction after we've all figured out what we're doing, what we're looking for, blah, blah, blah. Is I ask myself, okay, what am I trying to do with this spot on the roster, right? Am I trying to be somebody who is attacking into weak matchups, or strong matchups for me, weak matchups for the other person, and getting 20s? Am I just trying to play into the field and making sure that no matter what I'm playing into, I can guarantee a 9 while I'm personally obviously still looking for more than that in any game that I play? How can I make sure that I'm not playing a faction that's just going to get run over because I randomly can't play into something, right? So that's probably the first step, and that depends on who else is on your team is a big one. Depends on what the meta looks like. If there's a lot of factions that you were trying to account for, like in this last 8-man, we had to make sure we always had a plan for like Imperial Knights, right? We all know how fun they are.
They're a bit polarizing, yes.
Yeah, and things like that. So once I know that, that's kind of the next step. So first, this is normally actually the role that I like to play, and that is okay. I've set up people to be defenders on specific tables, and I've set up other people to attack in specific factions. So I need to fill in the rest, right? And that's where I ended up playing things like Gladius Space Marines at an 8-man event that me and Garrett played in a while ago. It's actually where I originally played guard from.
Yeah, got third.
At this point, yeah, DreamHack 2 years ago. Geez, and things like that. And yeah, so when that's the case, right? I know that I get to eliminate some of the worst matchups for the faction on open. Like, for example, I'm playing a melee army. I know I get to eliminate the possibility of playing into ranged matchups on open tables because those are earlier in the pairings process. I get to play in later, so I don't necessarily have to make all the same concessions that I would in a singles event where you could just play literally anything. That is not the case for any team role you're going to play in, as long as your captain knows basically what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. So then I get to say, okay, these are the factions I'm likely to play into. I make sure I have good matchups into those, and I build the list from there. Right. That style of it actually doesn't differ a ton from singles list building outside of the things that are in there just for like nightmare matchups that some factions have to do. But what that looks like basically is having a strong primary plan, or even more realistically, a primary denial plan, making sure that no matter what's happening, the opponent isn't just running up 15s from the beginning of the game. And then making sure that I have a strong secondary scoring package, making sure that no matter where we are at on the table in the board state, I have options to go and put up consistently 15 points a turn or something like that. Because with team events, as soon as you clear the 50-point barrier, right, you're never going to get 20.
Yep.
And then you can kind of do math backwards from there, where if you can guarantee your list is going to get to like 80 points, even if you lose, you're just not going to make a differential.
Just something I want to touch on real quick. What can you give a couple examples of a unit you would use as a denial package, and what characteristics you're looking for in a unit like that?
Yeah, fast IOC, right? Really
cheap, fast IOC, right?
Okay, cheap, fast IOC, absolutely. Yeah, it's the reason that factions like AdMech can be very good at the thing that I'm describing. I've played AdMech at an 8-man team event, actually.
My role. I'm on my bat arc right now, dude. I'm excited.
Actually, yeah, that's my main regret, dude. I didn't have enough bats.
Can't have too many of the bats.
Idiots, Atari idiots.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so fast IOC. There we go. Moving on to your next point.
Fast IOC and or durable.
Yeah.
Nobody likes it, right? It's always annoying to play the Necrons, but Necrons are very strong teams army because they do the thing that I'm describing almost by default, because they get to go stand somewhere, not die, thus resulting in you having decent board position from where you put them, scoring primaries, scoring secondaries from there, blah, 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 right? So that type of stuff is basically what you're looking for if your role is to generally be flexible, is just making sure you know that you can score a number of points in your game just off what you do, right? So it's really important, actually, when you're building a teams list, I think, and this is actually general 40K, or something common to 40K list building anyway, is that your list is a lot stronger if you are doing something and then your opponent is reacting to it. If you build a list to purely react to your opponent, that's where you get into trouble, I feel like, a lot of times, because you're not necessarily playing to what list your list is good at all the time. You're overreacting to what the opponent is doing constantly. But if you can go into it and say, hey, I know that from our deployment line, these units can do these things, and these things result in points, I think that is just a really strong place to be, right? I hope that all makes sense for kind of, I know that's not anything super crazy, but just basically making sure that you have your own strong primary and secondary game plan for the first 3 turns of the game, and if it goes south from there, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've found, you can you can almost map out the first 1 to sometimes even for 1 to 3 turns of a game, and then things kind of break out from there. And if you've got like turns 2 and 3 kind of pinned down as like a 10 on primary, you know you're looking at basically like a 35 on primary at minimum to end the game. So you count your secondary as like 30 minimum. Secondary is like, even if you're getting dumpstered, you're still looking at like a 75 like point on your end basically. And that for those, if they get 100, that's only like I think like a 14-6 or something like that. So even if you're getting like absolutely dumpstered, it's very reasonable just to go get a 6, which sometimes is all your team needs.
A lot of times, actually, if that's the role that you're in. And again, to be clear, we're making sure, I especially like teams, the floor is more important than the ceiling, right? The ceiling I'll get from like outplaying somebody or good things happening with dice, blah, blah, blah. The floor, though, what you can go to your captain and tell them you're going to get and then go up from there is probably the most important part, right? Because if you go into a matchup, not sure what's happening, you say you're going to get a 12 and you get like a 4, that's where things go off.
Yes, that really messes up pairings.
Yeah. And so another thing, too, with that is that you don't build lists to do nothing. Because that's something that people will fall into with teams. They'll say, okay, I'm a blunter, so I want my list to just have stuff that can do nothing, and then like that's not how you blunt things. It's not. You have to play the game to score points in 40K. If you just do nothing and stay in your deployment zone, you're going to end up getting 20-0'd by good players anyway, because they're going to trap you, and there's no points you can score in your own deployments, right? So that's something to keep in mind too. Is use your units, use your points, use all 2,000 of your points to make sure you are accurately playing the game on the first 3 turns. And if you do that and you pin down how to do it, you're not going to get killed in a team event. You're just not. Because no matter what you do, if you're playing 2,000 points against their 1,000 points for the first 3 turns of the game, you're just going to have a score lead. But just that is just reality, right?
The math.
So yeah. So that's kind of how that I would approach that side of things. The other side of things, if you're in a role where you'd say you're one of the better players on your team, where you're playing a very strong faction in the meta currently, or a faction that is designed to hunt things that are in the meta, for example.
Orcs.
So yeah, a team event that me and Garrett both played in together actually was that last month that I played Orcs at that?
It was a while ago. Recently. That was a rough event for one of us.
At a time when orcs were not considered to be particularly strong, I took orcs. I got best in faction. I 20-0'd 4 out of my 5 games. The only game I didn't was on a very open table against Imperial Knights, and basically, I did that because I knew that there are the things to hunt in the meta at the time. Knights. This is before the durability changes, by the way. But so I say, okay, I know I'm hunting those. I build a list, fight those and things adjacent to them. So for Knights, it's other things with big, high wound counts vehicles, right? Which people tend to lean into for teams. And then you go from there, right? So, or you can do, I know I'm going to be an early defender. I know I'm going to have table choice, which if you watch the guard video that I did with Garrett, that talks a lot about building a list for that specific thing. And it's basically taking a table. I know I get table choice. How do I design my list to play very well on that table? Given I'm eliminating, again, because there's a pairing process, some of the very worst matchups I could have in the thing. Both are valid ways to do it, but basically that's kind of how I approach that side of things. If I'm trying to kill people, I say, this is the layout I'll be playing on. How do I make sure my game plan for the missions on this layout results in me dumpstering people, which is not so hard to do if you have a good handle of your faction and how it can push things. And I'd say the number one thing to look at that, if that is the thing that you're doing, that is the list you're building, is you have to play a tempo list that starts the game on turn 2. With new challenger cards, with how just generally strong it is to go second in a game of 40K and or score points in the last 2 turns of the game if you have a lot of stuff alive. If you build a list that is designed around your opponent making mistakes into you preemptively, or that is too slow to actually get to like your opponent's deployments line earlier into the game, you're just not going to put up big you don't have time to.
Most, like a lot of missions that score your home, if you score your home in a mission and they score their expansion like twice, then your 20-0 is pretty much out the window. Especially with challenger cards, so you pretty much need to keep them off their expansion like essentially the whole game, but they can maybe squeak it on once. But something like Scorched Earth, where they just get to spam fives on their home, like doing nothing, they get 20 points on primary if you don't get there and take them off of it. And then with challenger cards, it's realistically going to be like 9 or 12. And then now all of a sudden they got 32 points on primary, like, and now your 20-0 is gone pretty much.
Yeah, and yeah, seriously. And I played Scorched Earth 5 times in a row at that event.
Yeah.
It got big differences, by the way.
Yeah, it's very good.
Because if you start the game on turn 2, or really turn 1, then you still have time to build up resource leads throughout the game, build up points leads, so that even if they're scoring challenger cards and just 5 on their home, we're talking about, like, you're up by 40 instead of being up by, like, 15, right?
Yeah.
Because then the 15, that's not good enough. And I'm not necessarily talking about armies that only just run dead on into your opponent's plane zone and kill them in there, right? Like World Eater or stuff like that. Because now that's a valid way to do it, but that is not realistic.
It's very matchup dependent to do that.
But what it really more is like what your list needs to be able to do is it needs to get it into the middle of the table in a really aggressive position and tell your opponent, if they do nothing, I will come kill you in your deployment zone on turn 3.
Yes.
Right. Which that every faction can do. Every faction can get themselves into a position if the opponent is being passive, blah, 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 to do that. So, like Guard is the only shooting army I can hit you behind your walls, but if I position my stuff correctly and aggressively enough, I can still tell you this Dorn is going to walk directly into your deployment zone and blow your head off, right? And you can manufacture that with everything. So it's really about starting the tempo of the game, because once you give the opponent that choice, then you don't let them just score 5s in their home plus secondaries and challenger cards, right? Because they're going to die. There's an existential threat to them existing on the board in the game on turn 3. And if you kill them on turn 3, that's enough time, right? Killing them on turn 1, if you can do it, awesome. But again, that's not realistic. Killing them on turn 3 is realistic for every army if you're being aggressive enough. You're not fully tabling, but you know what I mean? Killing enough that they can't really play the game. And so that's what you have to do. Is you have to make sure you are strong enough in that position, and then you give your opponent the choice of backing even further up, which is sometimes what people do, right? But when that happens, then you just put the gas on even more. And maybe sometimes if they do that, you won't actually get a 20. But a lot of times that's where you end up with your 17, 18s, right? Is because they went the other direction. But if they make the other choice and they say, okay, well, I'm going to play the game, yeah, maybe you're risking some bad things happening, but we're here to play 40K, right? We're here to play the game, and that's part of the skill expression of making sure that the things that the opponent is allowed to do aren't going to fuck with you that bad. Or they try to do something, it fails, then you really kill them, and that's where the 20 comes.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
20s are badass, but if you come back to your captain with a 16 or a 17, they'll never be upset about that.
Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. So yeah, that's really the idea. If you're building a list, a pushing list, it needs to hold a gun to your opponent on turn 2, maybe turn 3, depending on the army, and say, if you do not come forward to interact with my stuff and stop me from killing you, I'm going to kill you. And if they do it and do it incorrectly or poorly, or you set up a position where they can't do it correctly, that's where the 20 comes from, if that makes sense.
I agree. Yeah, that play pattern is something. Usually the role I like to do is the one who goes and gets the big wins.
Yes.
It's a lot more fun for me. I like that a lot more than playing for close games. But Bryce has done both roles. I've really only ever tried to be the differential guy in all the events that I've played in. So I'll have to probably try blunting if I ever play Grey Knights again. But it didn't go that well last time I was supposed to blunt.
I think you're good at what you do, Garrett. I think that's your thing. And hey, listen, as somebody who captains a lot of these events, I am very, very, very happy to have somebody that I can put that role on, and they're going to be able to execute it, because it's not that easy to do, right? Because a lot of the things I'm making it sound easier than it is, to be honest with you, because aggressively staging that far and pushing into your opponent gives them opportunities to interact with you. You can mess up. You can give them chances to kill you back before you kill them, right? And that's where the skill of the game comes in, is while pushing that aggressively, limiting or removing the options for your opponent to hit you positively first, and then again you go from there.
Perfect. Then in terms of like rounding out a team with your list, how many blunters do you think a team should have, and then how many like people looking for big differentials do you think a team should have? Let's assume like
In an 8-man.
yeah, assume 8-man like good to average players, or like let's assume that we don't have like a very stacked team. Is it like five attackers, 3 defenders, or maybe more blunters?
No, so yeah, I think realistically, you only need to, or you only want to basically engineer in a round of 8 matches, right? I think you want to engineer through the pairing process 2 big ones.
What would you consider a big win?
Like a 16 plus.
16 or better.
Now you're hoping for more than that to be clear, but I'm saying like engineer just on like matchup table stuff. Because right, so an 8-man team, you need 86 points to win.
Yes. Team points.
So
guys.
if we can team points. So if we can get 2 like 18s, right? So both teams start at 80 for those who are aware, right? Both teams, each person on their team, when you start a game, is a 10-10. And every differential point you create during the game takes points away from the opponent team and gives them to your team. So I went 18-2. We started the round at 80-80. Now my team has 88 points. Your team has 72 points, right? So we want, and 86 is the number you need to get to at the end of the round to actually win the round. So to win the round, we need to create 6 or more points of differential. So if we can, throughout our pairing process, get 2 big wins, that gets us to like 90, 92, 93, while avoiding any big losses, then we're just in a really good spot, right? And if we get more big wins, which generally is something that happens, then you go from there, right? But if you can get 2 big wins while avoiding big losses, I think you are in a great spot as a team. And to do that, I think basically you want to play like 4 pushing armies, 3-4 pushing armies into specific things, so that you can pin those bad matchups during the pairing process. And then you play 5 more generalist blunting armies. I actually am not a fan of the blunting concept in general, as far as people take it way too far, right? They play these like Necron lists that do no damage.
Just like straight bricks of like hope I survive for 5 turns.
Yeah, that stuff is bad. That stuff is never the correct way to approach these things.
Yeah.
But like 5 lists that are more designed to play closer games with your opponent, right, in a variety of matchups. Because if that's the case, and your players are good enough to avoid bad things happening, then you're just going to win rounds. You just like are, right? So that's the way I like to think of it, is more or less like 3 to 4 pushing aggressive armies. Especially the better players, you can have to play those, meaning there's less risk. Some of those armies can transition into blunting or close armies, right? They don't have to be all or nothing straight punching armies, right? They can be flexible themselves to a point. And then the rest of them are just good 40k armies, basically. Yeah. And then, I think that's normally really like strong team comps. Like at the team that I just played with, at ATC with the Art of War team, we really only had, like, for pushing armies, I would only describe. I mean, so we had Tucker playing GSC. Although GSC and teams, again, really transitions into a drawing army anyway, if you wanted to. Jack playing Eldar. Of course, Jack's one of the best players in the world.
He dropped 1 point over the whole event, guys. He had a 420s and a 19. Pretty good event from that guy.
And then probably I would say like Ben Jurek playing the Triple Atropos Imperial Knights, trying to attack other players' Knights team or Knights players, were really our 3 big, like, we want to get these into big differentials. And then the rest of them, if it happens, cool, right? But if not, it's whatever. Like, I was playing early defending guard. My role wasn't actually to go out and get big differentials. Now I happen to be able to because of the positive situations that I was put in, but it's not really like I didn't have to do that for our team comp to work, right? Like, I could have played more drawish games against people playing more conservatively, and we still would have been fine. And another that we had, play like melee pressure, CSM, Creations of Bile. We had Gladius Ultramarines. We had I know I'm missing
Thousand Suns.
Thousand Suns, yeah. So like, and all those armies, they're not, they weren't there to go kill people. They were just there to play good 40k, and then if they get differentials, we're real happy about it, basically.
Agreed. That is the way of the game. Like, if a 10-10 is way better than like a 0-20, everybody. So don't feel like you gotta go do miracles and like, oh, this is a terrible matchup. I want to try and make miracles happen and get cooked. Like if you come back with a 7-point like loss, like that is totally fine.
It's completely fine.
It is totally
as long as
fine.
you're honest about it going into the pairing process.
Yeah,
all good.
Be humble.
All good.
Be humble in teams. Yes, your matrix.
Literally.
Your matrix should be humble. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, dude, have you looked at our matrices the whole time? I mean, or mine at least. I never put anything higher than like a 12. I don't think ever, because I'm never confident that if another person plays correctly into that card list, it's not actually easy for me to push into them. So I don't want to just say, oh, I'm going to go kill that, even if I feel like I will, because there are things that can happen during a game. But I know that it's like I'm not going to lose. It's going to be a small victory, and then if it's better than that, awesome, right?
Heck yeah, dude. Well, that's kind of the overview for like the attacker / blunter sort of mentality when you're list building. Any other little tidbits you want to add before we close it out?
Oh yeah. If you're playing a team event, play something you want to play, please. You are going to perform better if you're playing something you're comfortable with and you're excited to play, instead of something that somebody makes you do. It is never going to be a good thing.
Yes.
We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy ourselves. Play something that you want to play, please.
Yeah, I agree. It's you're playing this for 15 hours, basically of gameplay. 15 hours you're going to be playing this list. And so like, don't just play something cringe because you think your team needs it. Obviously don't troll, but like, don't play Green Tide just because you think it might do well. Take from me.
If you're excited enough about it and you can show that it works.
Everyone's excited to play Green Tide for one round. I'll tell you that.
round battle rounds.
Yeah, the deploying it for the first time is magical, and then you realize you're stuck there for 3 hours, dying. Anyway, all right, well, that's Bryce again. He's a very good player. He's the best of faction at recent ATC and won the event. He will be at the World event. Very exciting for him. Hopefully I go get my ticket in this next tournament. But stick around for more videos. Like and subscribe. And thank you, Bryce, for being on. He'll be on again in the future, probably for some TTS stuff. So, all right. See you later.